Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Steph. If you're new here, I'm Steph. And today we are doing episode 3 of Read It Down. If you don't know what Read It Down is, this is a series that I created on my channel where I am trying to read down my physical TBR. And by doing that, I ask friends to pick 2 books off my physical TBR that I have to read within the month that they choose. So this month is March? February, March. It's March. So this is for the month of March, and then I get to choose 1 book off of my physical TBR. That's kind of like a mood read since I'm a pretty big mood reader. And then if I don't finish it within that month, I am on a book buying ban. I will not spoil what happened last month, but if you watch any of the other videos, you'll be able to see if I have been on a book buying ban or if I was successful. I will link those down below. So I'm very excited because this month, Tammie from Tammie Tries to Read is choosing my TBR for March, and I think that this is going to be really successful. So at the end of this vlog, you will get to see so far the tier ranking of who has succeeded the most in picking books off of my physical TBR. Why am I doing that? I don't really know, other than sounds fun. That being said, I'm also excited because Tammie and I have very similar taste in reading. Like, it's almost scary how much we have similar taste in reading, but there are a few things that I feel like I think we've had a difference of opinions on, maybe. Like, now that I say that, I'm trying to think. Sci-fi is what I'm interested to see our compatibility on, because I think Tammie likes sci-fi more than I do. Like, I think she has a bigger brain than me. That being said, I have been trying to kind of guess what somebody is going to have me read. To be fair, I pretty much know one of the books. If she doesn't pick it, it would be kind of funny because she sort of mentioned that she would probably pick this one. And that is Grace of Kings. And if you watch Tammie at all, you will know this is one of her favorite series of all time, is the Dandelion Dynasty. So the Grace of Kings is the first book in that series. But the second book, I actually have no idea. So I have a few guesses for that one. So the first one that I'm convinced will be the pick is The Keeper of Night, because this is like a YA fantasy that she absolutely loved recently, and I know she has said that she thinks that I will really like it too. My second guess is Iron Widow, which this one will be interesting because I think Iron Widow is considered science fiction, and like I said, I'm not 100% sure how our tastes align with science fiction. So that would be really fun. It's on my TBR, obviously I own those. But the third one is not so much because she's read it and loved it, but because we had mentioned buddy reading it, although I will admit I am not great to buddy read with. And I think Tammie has admitted that she's not great to buddy read with either, so our friendship is just like, it's perfect. But that is Blackwater Sister, so that has a potential just because we had mentioned wanting to buddy read it. Those are my 3 guesses for the second book. The first one, like, hands down, it has to be The Grace of Kings. It has to be. My battery's about to die, so let me change my battery and then we will watch Tammie's video. Okay, let's hope I got the angle semi-correct. Anyway, let's watch what Tammie is going to make me read.
Hello, my name is Tammie from the channel Tammie Tries to Read, and Steph has asked me to pick 2 books off of her TBR. And the first book, which anyone who knows me already knows, Steph already knows this one probably, is The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu, which is my favorite fantasy series of all time. And I just think Steph will really like this book. I really do. I know it's like over 600 pages, but like, it's fine. It's fine. And for the second book, I thought to myself, do I want to make Steph read The Mask of Mirrors, and make her read another tome, or shall I be kind? And I decided I was going to be a kind friend. So the second book I have chosen for Steph is The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu. This is such a good book, and it's like a quick read, so I thought it would be a nice little contrast to the tome that is The Grace of Kings. But yeah, Steph, those are my picks for you, and I hope you enjoy them.
That's absolutely wrong about the second one. I didn't even have that on my radar. So let me grab the books. Okay, so we have The Grace of Kings, which I have a bookmark in from the place that I bought it at. I only know that this is about the Chu-Han contention, but I don't even know enough about the Chu-Han contention to have any guesses about what this is about. And I kind of want to go in not knowing that much about it. So I'm not even gonna read the synopsis right now, but this is definitely a chunk. This is 617 pages. I really need to pick different people to pick my books because all of y'all have picked chunks. Every single one of you, all 3 of you. have picked chunks. I'm not even mad about it. I'm excited to read this. I've been meaning to read this for a while. Tammie actually has a read along. I think they're gonna do it all the way till the last book, which I'm not sure. I think that releases in November of this year. So I think they're gonna do a live show for that, but they do have 3 other live shows for this series. 3, 4? 3, right? Yeah, 3 live shows for this series. So I will link all of Tammie's information down below in general, but I will specifically link those live shows if you're interested in these books. The Kingdom of Back. Okay, so I have a weird history with Marie Lu. I have tried to read so many of her books. I think I have read the first book in every series that she has except for her newest series, and I've given every single one like 2 or 3 stars. So I'm really nervous about this book because I bought it in that time of trying to be obsessed with Marie Lu because I desperately wanted to be obsessed with Marie Lu. And if you're curious as to why, it's because I went to Comic-Con and she was there, and she happened to be part of a panel, but also part of a panel signing that I went to, and she was just really, really sweet. And so I wanted to be obsessed with her books. And so I bought like 2 there for her to sign. And then I got this as soon as it came out because I think it came out right after Comic-Con. Yeah, but none of them have really worked for me. I'm sad. I'm really sad about it. So I'm nervous about this one. I do know this is like historical fiction with fantasy elements in it. It's supposed to be about the sister of Mozart, and there's probably going to be a lot of music involved in here. So that makes me also nervous because I'm not a music aficionado. This one, definitely not at all what I thought Tammie was gonna pick, but I'm excited. I'm really excited to try this book. I do this every time I start a clip right when I'm super out of breath. It's really dumb, but anyway, I'm home from work. You're gonna see a huge pile of clothes behind me because I haven't folded my laundry. Anyway, I am listening to The River of Silver because I wasn't ready to leave this world. I also didn't realize that this came out on March 1st, so I could have easily read this for my David Bod reading vlog. But so anyway, I just got off work. It was a long day. I've been having not a great time at work recently, just for a lot of reasons, personal and my job. And yeah, I'm trying to find a way to like not cure my burnout, but I have been trying to do a lot more self-care, which includes reading The River of Silver, and I'm already 3 stories in. I'm listening to it on 2 times speed, so it's like a 4-hour long audiobook. I can breeze through that. My reading has been really weird since finishing the David Bod trilogy, in the sense that I don't want to read anything ever again. Not in a negative way. I just have a really bad book hangover. And I really wasn't expecting that because I tried to combat it by listening to a nonfiction book, and that did not help me. So here we are back in the David Bod world, and I'm living for it. I've read 3 stories so far. I don't know if I already said that, but I have read 3 and I liked all 3 of them. So I'm gonna spend this evening listening maybe to the rest of it, but also probably playing Kirby because I got Kirby. Actually, I didn't get Kirby. My partner surprised me with Kirby, and that's been really fun. I have not played it enough, but what I've played so far was very cute. Anyway, that's my reading update. I highly recommend this short story collection so far, but do not read it until after you've read the David Bod trilogy, because the first 3 stories had spoilers for most of the books, and then I think the story that I was about to start doesn't spoil anything. But I mean, if the first 3 stories are already spoilery, I figure that a lot of these are gonna be spoilery for the series, so you might as well just read it after you finish the series. I don't know if that's recommended anyway, like if that's how this book is being pitched, but I'm gonna pitch it to you that way. So anyway, I need food and more water and to get into shape so that I stop coming on here out of breath.
Every song and every wrong. Beautiful to see the world that way. ultraviolet. And every time I know the truth, speaking one way between me and you, and I'm fine on my own. So I wrote this song to serenade the ultraviolets all alone. She knows everything there is to know, and of course she does. Just smile and hush, and in my eyes I fall asleep. Your gracious touch is numbing me. My best dark suit I'll wear for free, looking stylish for make-believe. Oh, you're so smart with your ultraviolets, broken silence. You're ultraviolet anyway. And every time I know the truth, speaking one way between me and you, and I'm fine on my own. So I wrote this song to serenade the ultraviolets all alone.
Hello, I have a raging headache today. So the only update is I finished The River of Silver. Have I finished anything else? No. I loved it. There's not much that you can say about it because most of it is spoilers for the rest of the David Bod trilogy, but it was so sweet. Like, it cured all of my problems except for this headache. But I probably have a headache because it's over. And what do you do after that? Do I just reread it all? No, I can't, because I don't have time. Anyway, yeah, I loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. I think my new favorite thing in life is reading short story collections about characters from a series that you really enjoy. I would love that for all series that I love. So Fonda Lee, please take notes. Yeah. Any of my favorite series, like, I would be happy to read short story collections about these characters in different circumstances. Or like in this case, some of the short stories were about characters that you only got to hear about, and then you learned more about them in the short story collection. I, for one, love that. I'm a big fan, so this was a success for me. 5 out of 5 stars. I would reread this short story collection like a million times. I loved it. This lighting is it's something. Should I fix it? That didn't help anything, so we're just gonna deal with it. I'll get my face between the lights. Anyway, hi. I started Kingdom of Back. Interesting thought process that I had. This reminded me of something when I was reading it, like not the writing, but this concept reminded me of, it's Winter Song by S.J. Jones. This book, like this beginning portion, I'm only maybe a quarter of the way through the Kingdom of Back. And the beginning portion reminds me so much of Winter Song. And I remember really liking Winter Song. I gave it like 4 stars, which, though, looking back on it, the one thing that I think this book is doing so much better than Winter Song, not that I want to compare them because I really don't want that to be what I'm doing here, even though that is exactly what I'm doing, but stick with me. They're both about music. So obviously the Kingdom of Back is about Mozart and his sister, but it's mainly about his sister and how she was really talented. And I'm assuming, because I'm really not that far into it, that she's going to get overlooked and Mozart's going to be the prodigy child because he's already showing signs of being like a prodigy and a musical genius, and she's a little bit jelly. And I think that's really coming from a place of like, she doesn't really want to be a wife. She wants to be known for something. She wants to be remembered in history, and she continuously like asks her mom, you know, do people remember normal people, basically? And her mom is like, no, only the ones who've done something in life worth remembering are remembered. And I'm like, Jesus, like, give the girl some hope. At least her kids will remember her. Anyway, point being is that in Winter Song, one of the things that I had a really hard time with was the musical component to it. I love music in theory, but I did not grow up like reading music. I think the musical component within Winter Song was really confusing for me because it was very technical and very much for people who understand music theory. And in here, Kingdom of Back, I think that that is portrayed to a degree, but it's not in a way where you're sitting there like, what are you talking about right now? I think that's cool. I don't know. I was just listening to the audiobook this morning. I was listening to it all this morning, thinking about how I couldn't get it out of my brain, how similar these stories are, and how I really liked Winter Song. And I'm glad to have another story that reminds me of Winter Song, but it's not as confusing in the technicalities of music. Does that make sense? I just drank a tea when I got home, and I normally don't drink caffeine this late, and somebody's probably saying like, is tea really caffeine? When you don't drink coffee, tea is for sure caffeine. And I probably made a mistake because it's like almost 7 o'clock and I'm acting like this. So I'm gonna go and continue reading Kingdom of Back. The only reason I even gave this update was that I started it finally. Of course, at the end, the lighting gets better. I don't know why I don't do this more often, but I got home from work right now and immediately went and washed my face and just got like comfortable. Normally, I'll just go change my clothes and not wash my face until right before bed, but this is feeling nice. Anyway, I finished The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu, and I think my writing I think my rating is a 3.5 stars. So I want to preface this by saying that I have a weird relationship with Marie Lu in general. I've read many of books by Marie Lu so far. I think I've read almost every first book in her series except for the Sky Hunter series. And for some reason, I never connect with her characters. Like, her characters are never memorable to me, but her plots are. That's what's really weird. So I think if I had to guess why it's not memorable to me is because I am a character-driven reader. So if I'm not really connecting with the characters in these stories, then I remember the plot because they're interesting to me, but I don't really remember anything else about the story. I unfortunately don't think this is going to be any different, and I think I have officially figured out that maybe historical fiction is not for me, but I did actually really like a lot of this book. There are so many good things about the story that I really did enjoy, and I do still think, although they're vastly different, I do still think if you like Winter Song or you like The Kingdom of Back, then you'll like vice versa, the other one, you'll like one of those books. You like both of them? They just had very similar vibes to me. But anyway, I don't know if I described this book in the beginning. Basically, you're following the Mozart siblings. So he has a sister who I think her name is pronounced Nonrol, and she actually is older and a really talented musician. She has a ear for music and composes music and is kind of overshadowed by her brother. I don't know if this is historically accurate, if I'm being completely honest with you, but I did really like the way the story was set up, because in theory, I think that this could be a story of a sister hating her brother, but the relationship in here, it goes back and forth between hate and love at times because of the position that Nonrol is kind of put in as a woman in this society. But their relationship is actually very sweet, and you get to see that from a very early age, because I believe it starts out when she's 8 years old and he's like 4 years old. So you get to see their relationship from a very early age, and you get to see her showcasing her talent and how carefully her and her family have to tread around her talents and how they have to showcase them because she's a woman in this society. And Nonrol feels very like suffocated by these rules of being a woman, and she's constantly asking this question of, what does it mean to be immortal? Like, how do you immortalize yourself and be remembered? And a lot of the answers that she gets specifically from her mother is this idea of like, you immortalize yourself through some artistic form that can outweigh the fact that you're a woman, basically. But Wolfgang is starting to show that he is kind of a prodigy, and he has an amazing ear for music and composing, and because he's a male, it's more likely that he will go further than her. So Nonrol makes this wish that her music is always going to be the one that shines more than Wolfgang's, and that she's the one that's remembered and revered. And it brings this person into her life named Hyson, and he is the king of this immortal kingdom, and he needs to get his kingdom back. He needs to get his throne back. And so he makes a deal with Nonrol that I will fulfill your wish if you help me get my kingdom back. And this spurs a series of things that he is asking her to do that are often quite dangerous. And she so readily believes him and everything that he's saying. And then he's somebody that's really trying to help her. And so you get to see how their relationship unfolds, but you're also seeing her and her brother's relationship. And it's just so interesting how she is obsessed with immortalizing her talents and her name, but it all comes from a place of this misogyny that's very present within the world. And I really, really liked the messages in here, and those are my favorite parts besides the relationship between her and her brother. I think for me, the thing is, I didn't really connect to the characters very much. Like, while I liked their relationships and while I liked the interactions between characters, I wasn't really that connected to them. And I'm not sure if this is just something with Marie Lu's writing for me. Like, I guess not her writing, but her character development for me. So I think that's really the issue here. Out of all of the books that I've read by Marie Lu, this is definitely my favorite. There is this like fairy tale whimsical aspect to this that I really, really enjoyed. I think that if you like historical fiction, you'll probably love the setting of this and what is being described and the clothing and the music. I think that's another thing. I forgot to mention. I'm not somebody who's like very drawn to musical books. I think one of the few books that I've read where I like pretty much enjoyed it was like Daisy Jones and the Six, which has to do with a band. I enjoyed it because the format, I had never really read an interview format book before, which technically is not one of my favorite forms of reading a book, but I felt like it worked well in that context. Anyway, I do think I'm not very drawn to music books because while I love music and I love to sing and I wish that I could play more instruments, I just didn't grow up playing instruments. I didn't really get the opportunity to play instruments because it was very expensive. So music has never been like a huge part of my life in terms of composing and playing music and being part of a band. It's always been like, I love listening to music and I love bands and singers and I love the idea of playing instruments, but I just don't. So I think reading about it is just not that interesting to me, even though in theory it should be, I guess. I don't know, because I enjoy music, but like reading about it just doesn't draw me in. And that is like a huge part of this book, obviously, is her composing music, Wolfgang composing music, the importance of music in their life. Like everything revolves around them composing music, classical music. So yeah, I think I'm gonna give this a 3.5 stars. I might round it up to a 4 stars on Goodreads. I desperately wanted to love Marie Lu. That's all I'm saying. I literally have tried. I've tried so hard. And I desperately wanted this to be the one that was like my first 5 stars. And it's not, and that's okay. But I do think that this can be a 5 stars for a lot of people. I'm babbling at this point. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna start The Grace of Kings finally. Hi, sorry, I look a mess and my bed is a mess and like my life is a mess. It's my first day off. This is my first day off and I just woke up and this month has been kind of a mess. Like I've not been having a great time and I'm sorry if the energy of this whole vlog is off because work has been really, really rough lately. I'm hoping it starts to get a little bit better. But I don't know. It's just been rough lately. But I am halfway. I think I'm a little more than halfway through The Grace of Kings. And I like it. It has like a 4-star feeling right now. But I think it took me way too long to acclimate or adjust to not necessarily the writing style. It's not even the writing style because I've read Ken Liu before and I like his writing style. I think it's is this third person omniscient where there's a person telling the story of these people, but they're not really, so far as I know, a part of this story? I think that's third person omniscient. Why are they doing yard work? Sorry if the angle is slightly different. They did start doing a lot of, oh, they're doing it again. I can't escape yard work. I was saying that this isn't third person omniscient. It took me way too long to realize that was what was throwing me off with this book, and it's not even a writing style thing because I was like, I've read Ken Liu before and I really liked it. It's the perspective, and I don't want to say that I hate this perspective because I feel like Upon a Burning Throne is in the same perspective, the third person omniscient. So I don't totally dislike it, but I think when you come off the back of reading something like City of Brass, which is definitely not third person omniscient, you're very much in the heads of these characters. It's a little like I have to get used to it, but I really do like this book. It's unexpected because I knew this was about the Chuhan contention, but I didn't actually know a lot of details about that historical time. And from what I understand, this actually reads more closely to history, but there are some like fantastical elements and scientific elements in here. So this book is really interesting because it's a combination of like historical fiction, science fiction, fantasy, and I think it's probably categorized more as a fantasy because there are like these gods that are interfering with things that are going on in the world and kind of exacerbating contentions between people, and you get to see how these gods sort of work and what they're doing and how they have their hand in kind of everything. And I love that aspect of the book. I really love learning about the gods because they're just here to cause pure chaos, and it's really funny. And the way that they talk to each other is really funny. I have been listening to the audiobook and I'm assuming that he says things correctly, but I don't know. But The Grace of Kings is basically about how the archipelago Dara was split into 7 kingdoms, and these kingdoms all had different religions, cultures, etc. But there's a king who wants to unite all 7 of these kingdoms and turn it into an empire, and the gods are like, no bitch, you're not gonna do this. So it starts rebellions, and there are these small rebellions that are happening all over the place that start to get bigger and bigger, all because the gods have their hands in a lot of this chaos. So you are following 2 main characters, kind of. There are definitely more than just these 2 characters, and there are definitely different perspectives that you're following. But the 2 main characters, the more important characters in here, are Kuni and Mata. And so you follow both of them during these rebellions. They're kind of part of these rebellions. They're sort of instrumental to some of these rebellions. And the interesting part about this book is why I mentioned the third person omniscient, is because every time you get a perspective of somebody new, you get to learn like their entire story. Like their entire backstory. And at first I was really confused as to whether or not these things were really important to understanding the rest of the story, and quickly learned that it is important. I really do like getting to know the backstory of all of our characters involved, even if they're not like major players for the entirety of this book or series. You do get to learn everything about them. So if you are a character-driven reader like myself, you do actually get a lot of great backstory, but it does make this a little hard to follow at times, which is why this isn't giving me like 5-star feels, because I have had to reread quite a few chapters to like connect it together, and it's throwing me off a little bit because as much as I am enjoying this experience, I don't think I'm understanding everything that's happening in here. This book takes a lot of brain power that I just haven't had this month, so I do think that I'll probably reread this once I decide to move on with the rest of the series. Hi. It's April 7th. I have once again failed, so theoretically I'm on a book buying ban, but there are a few new releases that I'm gonna snatch up. So theoretically I'm on a book buying ban. I finished The Grace of Kings. Like I said, I had a feeling this was gonna be 4 stars, and it definitely was. I think it just took me too long to get into the third person omniscient. I'm saying that with such confidence, but I actually didn't look up if I was correct. There are so many cool aspects about this book that completely hit vibes that I love in books. For example, there are gods that are meddling in the real world, and they're causing these rebellions to happen and this uncertainty within this kingdom. And I've talked about pretty much what this book is about, and it doesn't really, you know, change as it gets to the end, but there are like things that happen in the end that are spoilery for me to talk about, but it does definitely make me want to move on with the rest of the series, how this book ends. And I really do love our 2 main POVs, because there are a lot of POVs in here. The 2 main POVs are Kuni and Mata, but like you get backstories and histories from random people that you don't know how they're going to play into this book at all. And also I went and watched Tammie's live show about The Grace of Kings, and it made me more excited to move on with the series as well, because they're talking about how there are key players in here that don't seem like they're a big deal in this book, but later on they kind of tie in really interesting and important ways. So I love books like that where you build off of the first one pretty heavily. I still don't know that if I reread this, that this would be a 5 stars for me. It's definitely like, it gives me 4-star feels. I really, really enjoy it. I can't say right now that it's a favorite book of all time, but I hope that as I move on with the series, like most books that I end up really, really loving, the entirety of the series makes this a favorite book of all time, which I can potentially see happening just because I really did enjoy the characters. And once I got used to the third person omniscient, I really, really appreciated the fact that we were getting such an in-depth look at so many characters' backstories and their lives. Like, if you don't enjoy that kind of storytelling, I could see why you don't like this. Anyway, that being said, I don't really have that much else to say about it other than what I said in the beginning. All of it remained the same, that I really enjoyed the aspect of the gods meddling in people's lives and the rebellions and like causing complete chaos. I loved our two main characters. I thought they were very interesting. You get a very in-depth look at them. And I also think it's really cool that this apparently follows history very closely. Like, it's more historical fiction than fantasy or science fiction. And that if you don't know anything about the Chuhan contention, then you're gonna know by the end of this. So I learned a lot. That being said, I get to rank who has done the best so far in picking books for me, even though this isn't even about like their taste in books. Although I do think everybody so far has picked books off of my TBR based off of if they've loved them. So maybe this is about your guys' taste. Yasmin is still number 1. She picked Sword of Kaigen and The Way of Kings. I gave Sword of Kaigen a 4 stars and The Way of Kings like a 4.5 stars. So that's the top so far. And then Tammie is in second place because with The Grace of Kings, I gave 4 stars and I gave The Kingdom of Back like 3.5 stars. And Rachel has to be last right now because I DNF'd Priory of the Orange Tree. And if I would have had to rate it at the time, I think I would have given it maybe a 3 stars, maybe. But she did pick The Paper Menageries, which was a 4 star for me. So she's at the bottom because of that, although everybody has picked something that I've really enjoyed so far. So does that say that they have good taste or that I know my own taste? It doesn't, because I've DNF'd more books in this video series than probably any other video series that I've ever done. So it just shows that I don't know anything about my taste. Anyway, that is the end of the 3rd episode of Read It Down. Thank you so much, Tammie, for picking 2 books off of my TBR. I really appreciate you doing that and sending me a video for this series. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books and what you think about them, trying to keep it spoiler free, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!